We are back with this big breaking news coming in. Undeniable proof of ambush, undeniable proof of China's deceit and betrayal. This image exposes the Chinese lie completely. This is a Times Now exclusive. In fact, we've got this first proof of the weapon which was used, the rods that were studded with nails that were used to attack our braves, our Indian soldiers. Remember, this is exactly what was highlighted during the information which was coming in of the brutal attack of the Chinese soldiers, that they used rods that were studded with nails to attack our Indian soldiers. This also goes on to show, to prove in fact that this was a premeditated Chinese assault, as was conveyed by our External Affairs Minister to his Chinese counterpart. The image exposes China's lies. There was no disengagement. In the name of disengagement, in fact, China was preparing itself to attack our braves, and this rod which was studded with nails was used to attack the commanding officer of the Bihar regiment, 16 Bihar regiment, who was just overseeing, observing the retreat of the Chinese soldiers. Let's go across to Srinjoy, our national affairs editor, joining us in the broadcast with more details. This is the first photo proof of China's betrayal and their deceit. This rod was used, and several others like this, studded with nails to attack our braves.
Yes, absolutely right. This is the kind of things that were used against Indian soldiers. It has to be said that the Indian soldiers were just waiting there, waiting to see the soldiers being moved out, the Chinese soldiers moving out. And as they were waiting, these attacks started. So this is perhaps the worst thing that China could have done. On the one hand, you had Indian soldiers waiting to see you go back. This was according to the plans. Harinder Singh and his Chinese counterpart, General Lin Liu, had decided that the troops would go back. So this had already been decided. And then all of a sudden, as you are going back, you suddenly decide that you're going to attack the Indian troops. And what do you attack Indian troops with? You attack them with rods, you attack them with staves covered with barbed wire. So this is how the Chinese attacked the Indian troops. This is clear evidence of what the Chinese had in mind, and this is complete proof of what S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, was saying, that yes, the Chinese attack was completely premeditated. There can be absolutely no doubt about it.
Yes, Srinjoy, the disengagement was only an eyewash because the Chinese soldiers were preparing this assault. It's very clear now, after this photo is going viral, a rod studded with nails that was used to attack our braves. Like you very clearly pointed out, yes, that's exactly what our External Affairs Minister said. It was a premeditated attack. It has also been conveyed in certain terms to his Chinese counterpart as well. This is treachery. Is this how the army of a country behaves?
That's exactly the point. You at the line of actual control are not supposed to be carrying weapons. So no rifles, no pistols, things like that. But isn't this rod covered with nails a weapon or not? It is very clearly a weapon. And the Chinese just skirted that decision that was taken jointly by both countries many years ago, that there would be no weapons on the line of actual control. And so instead of using rifles, instead of using pistols or revolvers, they have used rods with nails embedded on them. Now, how bad can you be? The government of India and the government of China decide that there will be no weapons on the line of actual control. And then instead of using rifles, you say, okay, we will not use rifles, we will use rods. Iron rods embedded with nails. This is about the worst thing any army can do, any professional army can do. This is not expected of any army. And you are attacking soldiers who are standing there waiting to see you disengage.
And especially not expected from an army from an army that was going to retreat, that was going to involve in disengagement, as was decided in that high-level meeting, as was the consensus, which was then, of course, violated by the Chinese army. They are still not agreeing that. Let's go across to Pradeep Datta. Pradeep, but the proof is out now of how the rods studded with nails were used to attack our Indian soldiers, and this proof, in fact, highlights that there was never any intention on part of the Chinese soldiers to retreat.
See, this is a story about betrayal and barbarism. Betrayal because they said that they are going to de-escalate, they are going to disengage from that area. In fact, this was a premeditated attack, as had been said by Indian Foreign Secretary, Foreign Minister also to Chinese counterpart. Because they never ever wanted to go back from that area. They had in fact laid a trap, as Rinja was rightly saying, because already there had been a consensus between the two countries that they will not be carrying weapon along the line of actual control, because they always wanted to maintain peace and tranquility. One should ask this question to them: is this a way to maintain peace and tranquility when you are using the club? It's a medieval way of attacking Indian soldiers who were there only to see the compliance of the disengagement on the ground. The moment they reached there, these men came, they started hitting them with the rods which were embedded with nails. They started hitting them with the clubs. As you can see in the pictures also, how they have in fact coiled the barbed wire around these clubs so that they can hit out towards the soldiers. But what is more important is that our valiant soldiers, despite being unarmed, they fought with them valiantly, and they were able to push them back because they did not want to compromise with the territorial integrity of the country that is supreme to India. But so far as the China is concerned, in fact, this is the story about barbarism. No civilized army will ever act in such a manner, which is first time in the history that civilized manner the army has used such tactics. We have seen this thing. In fact, Pakistan army had been doing it in the past when they have tried to mutilate the body of our soldiers, and the same strategy is being seen by the Chinese soldiers also. This is simply a backstabbing. This is betrayal. On one hand, on 6th of June, there was a meeting between the Lieutenant General from both the countries where they agreed that there will be de-escalation and they will disengage in certain areas. And it was with this intention, in fact, the troop that was led by Santosh Babu, colonel of that platoon, he had been to that area. They were trying to see whether they are complying with that or not. And that was the time when they started hitting them with these rods. And these rods are proof for the world community to see what peace and tranquility, in fact, the Chinese are talking about. Because this is nothing. Because China has a history of going back on their words and agreements. They have done it in the past, and they have done it in again this time. I think this is the high time when India needs to give them back, and India has already shown that kind of a paradigm shift in their strategy. Instead of
had we seen this coming, but that's not how we operate. We reached upon a consensus, and our soldiers made sure that we follow what was decided during the high-level talks. They were just observing the Chinese army, Chinese soldiers going back, the retreat, but then the Chinese had something else in their mind. They had betrayal on their mind. Pradeep and Srinjoy, thank you very much for getting us the details. For now, we're taking a short break.